The Alpha's Untamable Luna. Episode 7. As I get up from the bench, she tells me, it's just another avenue to explore, if you so choose. I know what I need to do right now, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I know you're right about being able to put this on hold for a bit, just until we put this striker issue to rest. I respond with a smile. I ask her, can I walk you back in? As the fresh, salty breeze blows up the cliffs and into our territory, Nicole leans back on the bench and breathes deeply. She smiles happily and says, I think I might stay a while. I know how my book ends, I'm in no rush to finish it. As she simply sits back with her eyes closed and the sun shining on her face through the alder branches around us, I sincerely say, I'll leave you to it then. Thank you, Viv. She doesn't open her eyes as she says, always happy to be of help to you, Alpha. I turn around and head back towards the Elder Council building, giving her a moment of peace. I shift in the woods as soon as I can because I have a lot of thoughts racing through my head. I am reminded of how much more I should be taking this form by the familiar, almost comforting, fiery sensation that rises up my spine as I shift. I can appreciate the allure of remaining in this form more frequently, even though the strikers have grossly misused and perverted the ability we were given to change ourselves. You can worry less and concentrate better. It's as if your human side, which is often so consumed by life's worries, is temporarily silenced. You are compelled to leave your emotional, overthinking state and enter a simpler, yet more primordial one. You concentrate on the present moment, taking in the sounds of the deer to the east breaking twigs under their hooves as they search for food and the scent of the ocean rolling up the cliffs. The taste of a summer gradually coming to an end, the sensation of the soil beneath your feet. Like background noise, the rest is simply ignored. Your human problems have nothing to do with what you are thinking, feeling, tasting, smelling, or hearing. All you are is here, and nowhere else. For what seems like the first time in a long time, I properly stretch my legs and forearms as I speed through the trees. I lift my nose just above the ground and take a deep breath to look for any indication of strangers trespassing. I smell a rabbit, a bear, and another person, but I know who this person is. I had no idea you'd be on patrol at the moment, Alpha. I see Nova in front of me and stop. The arid landscape surrounding us, which is made up of yellows, golds, and beiges, seems to perfectly complement her sandy red coat. Red is supposed to stand out in a forest, but sometimes it's very difficult to spot Nova in the late summer. I'm not. Not officially, anyway. I decided to do a sweep just for fun while I was in the area. Is everything going well here? I walk up to her and ask. More or less is how she tilts her large head. It's as good as it gets. I didn't notice anything unusual, though I did come across a dead skunk, which nearly caused me to throw away my lunch. We're not quite alone yet, I think, laughing as I glance around. No, Jace is also present, so we aren't. They're unaccounted for. He's as happy as ever when he chimes in on our mind link. You have nothing to report? He is, as far as I can tell, down by the coast, on the other side of where Nova was sweeping. There's nothing out here but that dead skunk Nova mentioned in us. There is silence. At the mere thought of that quiet my fur prickles. When you know there are people who want to take you out, you never feel at ease being quiet. Until the strikers are bleeding on this land, I doubt I'll be content with the silence. Yes, it's difficult to feel comfortable these days. As Nova says this, I scowl a little because I know that I'm not the only one who is distressed by feeling singled out. Whether we like it or not, we are all involved in this. When our reinforcements arrive, I'm confident that we won't have to endure this much longer, but it's the reality and it blows. I understand, but the interim still blows. A pebble flies into the bushes as Nova kicks her paw into the ground. I was considering dropping by to visit Dahlia. Is she still enrolled in preschool? Since Jace would be the person closest to her and would have probably passed by at this stage of his patrol, I primarily ask him this question. Alpha, I can attest. As I passed, she waved at me. The kids are packing up because it's the end of the day, but if you're fast, she should still be there. I nod my head in agreement as he says this. All right, I'll leave then. I'm sorry, Nova, but I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. As I pass her, I give her a shoulder bump. Despite sighing, she nods. Finn, you're fortunate that we have a strong friendship, otherwise, I might just find it annoying. You're upset about it and even told me about it because we're friends. She laughs and gives in when I remind her and quip back. All right, that's accurate. I'll see you, Nova. Be careful. I said my goodbyes to her. Always. She says this solemnly as I launch myself forward once more, digging my nails into the ground. I make my way towards the school, pausing occasionally to turn around and get dressed. While admiring the vibrantly painted butterflies that are fluttering across the fence, I stroll up the path to the pastel castle that Brittany has constructed here. At the gate, I see parents guiding their children back down the pathway to their homes while holding their hands in their own little, colorful backpacks that are slung over their overly large shoulders. When parents inquire about their day, children enthusiastically respond, stuttering a lot of ums and ahs. As I approach and they walk past me, I get smiles and acknowledgement nods, and I reciprocate. I head towards the schoolhouse after passing through the gate. The entryway, which is gradually clearing out, is visible through the bright yellow door that is open. When more people have filed out, I wait on the porch to get inside. And as they do, I see Dahlia. For the first time since she left early this morning, I see her, and my heart briefly lifts from its place in my chest. In her sundress, with her long hair pulled back into a ponytail and cascading down her back, her olive skin taunts me. I've never seen Dahlia in a less than gorgeous state, even though her curls are a little frizzy from her hectic day and some strands are practically falling out of the floral scrunchie she's using. As she removes a blue jumper from one of the hooks, I hold onto the porch's banister and swallow hard. She helps a young boy who is no older than 3 put it on while kneeling down. He is the son of Jeremy and Pauline Olsen, and I believe his name is Kiefer. Dahlia touches her pointer finger to the tip of Kiefer's nose in a cute way as he laughs at something she says. I can tell right away how much she loves being here with the kids by the adoration on her face. I haven't heard her complain despite all the early mornings and late nights. And I'm aware that it's because she sincerely believes everything is worthwhile. I can't help but imagine her as a mother, with her own child. She would be, I suppose, the mother of my child. I don't expect to have this crazy thought, but when I do, it only makes me imagine how amazing she would be. She excels at everything she does, and I imagine being a mother would be no exception. If she can put up with the tantrums and hissy fits every single day, she clearly has a knack for dealing with children. Personally, I've never had a strong preference for children. If you can return them to their parents at the end of the day, they're manageable enough. However, now that Dahlia is by my side, the thought of having my own doesn't make me feel as panicked or completely uninterested as it once did. It seems more like something I could actually see myself doing for some reason. That's a first, okay, Jesus Christ. Dahlia gets up off her knees and gives Kiefer a bright orange rucksack, which he accepts before jogging towards the door and me. Dahlia's eyes follow him as he dashes past me, hurling himself at his father's legs, and then she looks at me. She first displays a look of surprise before softly smiling. I tighten my hold on the railing as the feeling of floating returns to me. It's simultaneously amazing and intolerable. She effectively clears the entryway of kids by giving a small red-headed girl another backpack. She brushes one of those loose strands out of her face and says, "I didn't expect you to come by." To be honest, I say, neither did I, but I'm glad I did. I glance around at the children still filtering out at the gate and say, "It's nice to finally see you in action." She laughs, and her expression indicates that she is both exhausted and pleased with her work. "Well, now you know why I'm always coming home with marker all up my arms and various snacks in my pockets." She accepts my hand when I hold it out to her. As I lean against the porch banister, I draw her close to me. I tuck it away after brushing another strand out of her face. She scans my face with her eyes, which are currently nearly turquoise due to the sun's rays. I hear her say, "I missed you." It surprises me, but it also makes me feel warm all over. I'm answering before I have a chance to reconsider. "I know, I missed you too." She leans fully into me after giving my hand, which she is still holding, a squeeze. She sighs deeply in quiet relief and apparent exhaustion as she rests her head in the hollow of my neck. I'm relieved that another day is over and she's here with me, but I'm also exhausted because I know she'll just have to do it all over again on Monday. I gently lean my head against Dahlia's and press her closer to me by running my free hand down her back. "I think you need a break, Dahlia." As I hear her say, "It's okay, really." I laugh because I know that getting her to admit it will be difficult. As she turns to face the children behind me, I start by saying, "I know you can do it," and then I pull away to look down at her. Her eyes come up to look directly at me. "But that doesn't mean you should burn yourself out, either. It's the only way I feel like I'm any good to anyone around here, so I want to. It's worth it." She turns back to face me, her expression displaying absolute conviction. I respond, sounding harsher than I intend to, "It's not worth it to anyone if you exhaust yourself out to the point you can't keep up." In the hopes that she will see my point, I gently add, "I need you to take care of yourself too, not just everyone else all the time." Dahlia gives a nod. "I am tired." She laughs half-heartedly. "I know, you're right. It would be really nice to not wake up at 5:30 for the 6th morning in a row." Saying, "Today is Friday," I suggest, "we should take this whole weekend to recharge, She raises an eyebrow and leans back slightly. She asks. You're not going to be tied up with alpha business. I am aware that I have a few meetings scheduled, but nothing so pressing that my dad couldn't act as my stand-in and provide me with the details after the fact. With a mental note to text my dad later to ask him to cover for me, I say, I've cleared my schedule. I want to do something this weekend for you, as a repayment for how great you've been in all this. Dahlia rolls her eyes and smiles. She shakes her head, saying, You make it sound like I kept the whole pack from falling apart or something. I furrow my brow, taken aback and perplexed by how little credit she is currently giving herself. I put my hand against her cheek to bring her eyes back to mine and say, Well, it might not have been to that extent, but Dahlia, you did a massive thing by allowing Brittany and Brenda to grieve. Doing this alone is no small feat, and you deserve to recognize that. You kept a family from falling apart, and dozens more from losing their childcare without notice. That's the kind of thing real Lunas do. It's not always big things, you know? It's this kind of stuff that makes a difference, it counts just as much. Dahlia takes a moment before answering, placing her own hand over mine. That's really nice of you to say, Finn. She looks up at me and says, I think a weekend off would be really good. As I answer, I can't take my eyes off the freckles that are enhancing her cheeks and nose from the summer sun. Unable to maintain my distance, I lean in to meet her mouth and say, Then a weekend off it will be. She tastes like peanut butter and has soft lips. I remember the peanut butter granola snacks she always brings home in her pockets. I give a little laugh, and she breaks off, perplexed. What? She becomes suspicious right away. I smile and say, You taste like peanut butter. She touches her own lips, and I watch as her cheeks turn pink. Shit, she quietly murmurs. She smiles sheepishly and confesses, I had those granola snacks earlier. I gently kiss her again as I lean back into her. I shrug and say, It's okay, I love peanut butter. Dahlia leans back in my arms and laughs heartily, her smile spreading to her eyes. Being unable to resist, I join in. I can hardly express how happy I am to see her like this. I never realized how much I needed this. I didn't know I was waiting for her until now. In a nutshell, her. Dahlia, I feel more human after taking a shower than I have throughout the day. Finn is currently packing for our weekend trip, which is just past 5 o'clock. Since he first came to see me at the preschool, he has had this goofy little grin on his face, but he has refused to tell me where we are going or what we will be doing. I'm going along with it because it's completely adorable and I don't want to ruin his fun by keeping this a secret from me. Since our real dinner will be later, he advised me to dress warmly and eat a small snack before we leave. After we've reached the enigmatic location. Naturally, I find the entire situation to be very charming, but I feel as though Finn is making extra effort. I'm sure he's been grateful for what I've been doing at the preschool to give the Scots some breathing room. Even though I don't think it's necessary, I believe that a part of me just wants to let him pay me back. I want to support this aspect of him as much as I can because I know how much he wants to show that he cares, especially after our difficult beginning. I put on a black puffy vest, a grey long-sleeve cable knit sweater and black jeans as I finish changing. I put on my boots close to the front door and notice a big cooler and a stack of bags outside. I go outside and pick up the bags, slinging them over my shoulders as I do so. Finn is standing directly in front of me when I turn around, looking both energized and a little breathless. He looks at the bags and says, "You don't need to get those, I got them." I ask, observing his somewhat labored breathing and finding it even more amusing how clearly excited he is, "Have you been running to the car?" He says almost shyly, "Maybe," and then he picks up the cooler. As we start down the path from the house to the parking lot, he tells me, "I'd rather not have to haul this stuff around in the dark, just trying to beat sunset. Reaching it isn't very far, but it's still bothersome when loading this kind of cargo." "You've got my interest, Mr. Graves," I respond. As we get closer to the Hummer, which has its trunk wide open right now, I say, "I just hope you're not going through too much trouble is all." It contains a couple blankets I know from the linen closet, and another cooler, the twin of the one Finn is carrying right now. He shakes his head, "No trouble," he says. He stacks the cooler on top of the other one and says, "Really?" Then he turns to face me. I acknowledge that he packed for me when I hand him the 2 duffel bags containing our clothing. His enthusiasm makes me shake my head and smile. He nods and firmly closes the trunk when I ask, "Is that the last of it?" He pauses to look me over and says, "I'm going to go lock up the house, then we're all good." He gives me a boyish grin and draws me in for a kiss, saying, You look nice, baby." I blush a little as his lips work sweetly against mine in a possessive manner, and I smile at his antics. In an attempt to extract more from him, I get up on my tiptoes and put my arms around his neck. My knees weaken and my insides clench with pleasure as I feel him gently bite down on my lip. Feeling him support me against the SUV, I groan against his lips. With a moan, he reluctantly pulls away. Finn shakes his head, a smirk tugging at his lips and his eyes looking darker than before. "You are a distraction, and we are on a schedule here," he says. I naively bat my eyes for comedic effect, and I notice a smile on his face. "Well, it's a good thing I'm so cute then." Before kissing my lips once more, he responds, "You're right." Finn says, "I'm really looking forward to this." His voice has an almost cautious excitement, as if he doesn't want to frighten me away with how much he wants this. I say, "I am too," with genuine sincerity. I ramble, not that I'm one to complain, but a whole weekend away with neither of us needing to be anywhere or do anything. The thought seems a little absurd considering how busy we are. As he lets go of me, Finn laughs and says, "I know, we might never come back." I smile and shake my head in response to his joke. As he grins at me and begins to jog back towards the house, his back vanishing into the trees, I respond, "Might not." I climb into the Hummer and wait for Finn to come back, relishing the quiet and the prospect of our upcoming journey. I consider where he might be taking me and our plans for when we get there. Even our most intimate and private moments still happened well within the boundaries of the Dread Moors, so we'll have each other all to ourselves, something we haven't really had at all. We don't seem to be angry about that. Nobody is more aware of the level of responsibility needed to be a pack leader than Finn. He is aware of how crucial it is that he spend most of his time with his pack. However, I would be lying if I claimed that our prolonged separation over the past week was simple. We now depend on one another just as much as his pack does. It's turning out to be difficult to strike a balance between complete loyalty to the pack and to one another. I laugh a little. Listen to me, Dahlia Winters, the Frostclaw orphan, talking as if she suddenly knows everything there is to know about Alpha/Luna packs. Even though it's absurd and humorous, I believe I now know enough to discuss the topic. I know a lot more now than I did a month ago, and even though I know I still have a lot to learn about what it means to be mated with an alpha and then automatically assume the role of Luna, I am confident that I can learn enough to become proficient in the necessary skills. Even if we don't always get it right, I have faith that Finn and I can succeed together. Hurry up! From outside the car, I can hear the sharp sound of a twig snapping under pressure. My body tenses up, and I sit up, staring out the windscreen and the window on the Finn's side where I believe the sound came from. In warning, my wolf flashes her teeth and lifts her hackles. She senses that someone else, something else, is there. We now understand what it's like to be watched. I try to get a better view from outside the Finn's side by bending over the console. All I see is the remainder of the dirt parking lot, which has been leveled, and beyond that, the treeline, which is now being obscured by dreadmoors as the sun sets. I'm so certain that something is out there that I squint to see if I can pick out any distinguishing shapes in the trees. Then the door suddenly flings open. Finn says, "Okay, let's get the hell out of," but stops short as I fall back into my seat and grip the passenger door handle with my right hand as though it were suddenly opening. Finn says, "Whoa," observing my posture, and I relax as soon as my mind realizes it's just him. "What's going on, Dahlia?" As he settles into the Finn's seat, Finn shuts the door. His face is marked with worry, with creases between his eyebrows and occasional frowns. Although I can see that my response did not meet his expectations, neither did I. I stutter out, I am sorry," letting go of the door handle and letting my shoulders drop back into the leather of my seat. "I thought I heard something, I was just looking out and didn't see you, and it's silly, really. I feel ashamed right away that I might have ruined this trip before it had even begun. I just didn't realize it was you I was hearing, that's all." I extend my arm to grasp his hand. I ran my thumb across his big knuckles. He holds it tightly. He sighs and says, "This is exactly why we need this." After saying, "But don't worry," he turns on the Hummer's engine and kisses the back of my hand. "We're going somewhere where there isn't going to be another soul for miles." Finn, we're getting closer to our destination as it gets close to 8 o'clock in the evening. Dahlia initially did not like my driving, but it helped us make good time. But after an hour, she calmed down and realized that, despite my propensity for speeding, I am actually a good deepen with no intention of crashing. Less than an hour into the trip, she fell asleep, and I'm not brave enough to wake her up just yet. Although she has done a fantastic job of concealing it, I am aware of how exhausted she has been. That's how I realized we needed to transcend national boundaries and simply be two people in a relationship. Go somewhere where we can just have a genuine chance at being a couple, without the formal titles and responsibilities. With all of this happening to you, it's not like they give you Werewolf Mating 101. There is a lot of trial and error involved, and it's a learn-as-you-go experience. This definitely tests my need for control because you can't control what you can't plan for. I also didn't plan for Dahlia to enter my life at the exact moment she did, let alone everything that followed. Before I can stop myself, I see Frank's face. I feel a twinge of guilt and sadness, and even though I'm devastated by his family's and my pack's loss, my anger is not far behind. Those lightning bolt marks on our attacker's fur, guttural growls, muzzles pulling back to reveal razor blades, and fragments of teeth tearing through flesh are all memories of that day in the clearing that race through my mind. I try to relax by flexing my knuckles and then stretching them out again while holding onto the steering wheel and taking a deep breath. While I'm here with Dahlia, attempting to restore some semblance of normalcy to our relationship, I don't want to be on edge. The last thing we need is for me to begin to stew in all of this. I always feel this quiet rage that never goes away. It's always there, simmering away, and eventually it will undoubtedly explode. But not tonight, not now, and not this weekend. For a few days, I would like nothing more than to act as though there is no imminent threat of war. I give a head shake and return my focus to the present situation. I'm listening to a radio talk show that is currently discussing whether or not it is appropriate to send bills to guests who fail to attend weddings in order to recover the cost of their meal and seat. The subject has been very popular, and many listeners have called in to share their thoughts. All of this seems to be highly contentious. The fact that a guest's failure to attend a wedding is one of the worst things that can happen to some people makes me laugh a little. That makes me laugh, especially when contrasted with the tragedies and losses I have witnessed and experienced in my brief time as Alpha. If only Susan from Eureka, Oregon, knew that packs of wolves are getting ready to defend their way of life not far from her home. What would she think about the matter then? I catch a glimpse of Dahlia's head suddenly popping up after lolling down and towards her chest. I chuckle softly as she sits bolt upright, startled out of her slumber. She brushes some of her hair out of her eyes and a drowsy smile appears on her face. When she notices the clock, she stops short, saying, "Oh. Sorry. How long have I? Oh shit, I'm sorry. You should have woken me, I did not need a 2-hour nap." She puts her own hand on top of mine as I reach over and touch her thigh. "It's fine, babe. You did need it, otherwise it wouldn't have taken so little to get you to pass out in the first place." Dahlia frowns, surveying the area around the narrow, remote road we are now on. "I still didn't mean to leave you alone this whole time." As I squeeze her leg, I comment, "I wasn't. Besides, it gave me the chance to hear all about the debacle that is fining guests for not showing up to the wedding once they RSVP." I respond with a sigh. Leaning forward to raise her feet into a cross-legged position in the seat, Dahlia giggles. She reaches for the volume dial, but I quickly remove my hand from her leg to prevent her from doing so. "Oh really? That does sound rather gripping. Shall we sample some more?" she asks. I take her outstretched hand in mine and say, "I'd rather listen to just about anything else. It's never occurred to me to ask about your taste in music up until this moment." Dahlia settles back into her chair and holds my hand in her lap with satisfaction. She grins as I catch a glimpse of her blue eyes settling on my face. "Yes, well, it's not as though we had a first date to feel out all of our hobbies and interests, is it?" she asks. "Not exactly," I reply, nodding in agreement with the point and letting out a sigh at how strange and intense our meeting really was. I smile as Dahlia laughs and I say, "So, go on then, tell me what Dahlia Winters would be listening to her in her free time in a less chaotic, werewolf-infested world." I see her smile turn into a thoughtful expression. Well, truthfully I am all over the map. I like old jazz, you know, the classics like Sinatra and Dean Martin and Ella Fitzgerald. But I also grew up with Serafina listening to tons of Mexican music, given her heritage, so I'm partial to that too. She laughs. Really, good music is good music, you know? I don't really play within any one single genre. I will say though I can rap Eminem like no one's business. This makes me laugh because I can hardly imagine it. I look at her for a moment and raise my brows in challenge before saying, "Noted, but I may need to formally test that claim." Dahlia shakes her head and smiles. She says with a confident, convincing, and endearing air, "I look forward to the day I prove my skill set." I smirk and ask, "How about that day be today?" She looks over with interest and bewilderment. I remove my hand from her lap and locate my phone by reaching into the console. Find one, put it on, and let's see. Before switching the head unit's mode from radio to Bluetooth, I give her my phone. Dahlia remarks, "Geez, you don't even have a wallpaper on your phone? It's just black." I shrug. I shake my head and say, "I find them to be either distracting or ridiculous. Was easier to just make it nothing." I roll my eyes when she says, "That doesn't shock me, but we'll work on it though, don't worry." It sounds like she's trying to reassure me. I scream angrily, "They were all stock images of stupid shit raindrops and sunrises and ducklings," and Dahlia merely chuckles. She is obviously teasing me when she says, "God forbid, not ducklings." It almost makes me smile, but I suppress it. I recall the different options and find each one just as unappealing as the last. I say this with clear conviction, find me a less cheesy and ridiculous background and I'll keep it, I promise. But you won't, trust me. She smiles as she chooses a song from my Spotify library and says, "Okay, fine, another challenge accepted. Now, to prove my original claim, here we go." It's real Slim Shady opening notes that I hear. "Oh boy," I remark, grinning now as I watch Dahlia clear her throat in preparation for this performance. Dahlia opens the first verse with, "Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?" I repeat, "Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?" We're gonna have a problem here. I can't help but laugh and shake my head at the beginning, but by the time the second verse rolls around, she still has every word perfectly timed, even without a single lyric to refer to. Dahlia looks at me as she sings along in time, a smile appearing on her face that she tries to hide. And there's a million of us just like me, who cuss like me, who just don't give a bad time like me, who dress like me, walk, talk, and act like me, and just might be the next best thing but not quite me," she says. As soon as she finishes spitting her rhymes, I turn to face her and make eye contact, and she breaks out in laughter. She struggles to control her laughter, so she misses the chorus, but she eventually regains her footing. I see the smile on my face at that very moment. I'm not sure how long it's been there, in fact, it might have been there since she first started, but I can't be certain. With her, it's really difficult to say. She keeps singing, and when the song ends, she sits back in her chair with such a proud expression on her face that it seems like she's only 6 years old and just showed off her double Dutch skills. She raises an eyebrow at me and asks, "So, does that prove my case? Or do I need to put another song on?" I take her hand in mine and say, "I think you have proven your talents beyond a shadow of a doubt." I lift it to my lips and plant a kiss on its underside. "I'm just curious on how such a straight and narrow, well-to-do girl like you stumbled into the likes of an artist like Eminem. I'm honest." Dahlia shrugs, grinning. She laughs, "I don't know, middle school, I guess. He was popular, and I wanted to be too, so I checked him out. It didn't work the whole attempt at fitting in with the popular kids, but I at least found a genuine interest in his work." She elaborates. I realize now that this is another subject we have somehow always avoided until now. "So, what? You weren't ever part of that crowd? The popular kids?" I ask. "Nah," she says, shaking her head as she looks out at the road that is getting darker in front of us. "I would have given my left arm for a place at that lunch table back then. Anything to be accepted, but it wasn't meant to be." She laughs. "It was fine though, I had Malia. That was all I needed, really." I've never heard of this name before, so I ask, "Malia?" "Yeah, Malia Thompson. She was my best friend from the time I was 8 to 19. I mean, we still are friends, it's just that she moved away. Met her mate when she was on a trip to Washington and relocated there permanently a month afterwards." She informs me that her voice and posture are difficult to comprehend. Squeezing her hand, I say, "You must miss her." She nods and absently brushes a few hairs from her face. "I do, yeah." Dahlia sighs, and I worry that maybe we shouldn't be talking about the past at the moment. "But I mean, she was so happy when she came back to Frostclaw, packing her bags to go back up there. She couldn't say enough good things about the guy. His name is Noah." I start to say that if she doesn't want to, we don't have to go into too much detail, but she continues. "I was pissed off when she said she was leaving. I thought the whole thing was too fast, too soon, like, you barely know this guy and you're going to just leave." She laughs as she shakes her head. She glances down at our clasped hands and runs her thumb along the ridge of my knuckles, saying, "It was too much for me to understand, back then. But now I get it, and there's no way in hell I could blame her for choosing that." In response, I give her hand a light squeeze. Dahlia nods when I ask, "All the same, having your best friend of over a decade leave suddenly couldn't have been easy. Do you guys stay in touch?" Dahlia's expression changes to one of horror and realization. "Occasionally, yeah. I haven't texted her since before everything happened at Frostclaw. Oh my god," she says. "Her parents, Malia's parents?" She bites down on her lip after it trembles noticeably. "She must know by now, right? Malia calls her mum every week, there's no way she would go this long without hearing from them." Dahlia nods her head. She quickly adds, "I can't think about that right now." I understand and nod. "Then don't. Do you still have Malia's number? You could always call when we get back in cell range." I'm suggesting. She lets go of my hand and takes the device out of her vest pocket, saying, "I have it memorized, I'm going to save it right now, so I don't forget." She briefly taps on the screen before putting it away. She sighs, "Okay, now I can relax a little more." Dahlia smirks, and I roll my eyes. "So what about you, hey? I bet you were Mr. Popular with all the girls drooling after you." I chuckle and say, "Of course you'd think that." Dahlia challenges me, raising her eyebrows in response, "What? Am I wrong?" I smile mischievously and say, "Well, no." She laughs and leans back in her chair while stroking her long hair. Almost to herself, she asks, "Why am I not surprised?" Dahlia's laughter intensifies as she asks, "I wonder how many girls you kissed under the stands? They must have just been swooning, going home to gush to their journal that Finn Graves kissed them." Normally, I would be annoyed by anyone making fun of me, but when I see how amused she is, I'm willing to overlook it. As a hormonal high school kid, I vaguely remember the half-dozen girls I kissed and hooked up with, and I shrug, saying, "Could be, but honestly I never really cared enough to find out." I give a brief grimace and shake my head, saying, "And as far as the stands go, I actually never did that. Far too cheesy for my tastes." Dahlia picks up my phone and browses through my music library, grinning. "Ah, right, of course. Not classy enough, is it?" Dahlia turns to face me in shock. "Bonnie Raitt? Did not expect that, Norah Jones," she says. I don't feel like anyone in this world needs to defend themselves for enjoying Norah Jones, so I say, "What? Tell me you don't like her too." Dahlia shrugs and keeps scrolling, saying, "Well, of course I like her. I just didn't see you gravitating towards her too, that's all." I can't help but wonder, what did you have me pegged for, then? She asks, "I don't know, death metal," and I genuinely chuckle aloud while shaking my head. Dahlia also chuckles. "No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I hadn't a clue. Classic rock, maybe," she speculates. I give a shrug. I consider my numerous favorite musicians and their diverse genres. Yeah, I dabble in that. I'd say I'm primarily a blues guy, with a bit of rock and jazz mixed in. But like you said, I'm not against exploration. Good music is good music." Dahlia gives a nod. With a cheeky smirk on her face, she remarks, "It seems we actually just agreed on something." I look at her and say, "Imagine that." A smile tugs at the corners of my mouth. She appears to be very happy right now, sitting cross-legged on her seat with her hands in her lap and her eyes fixed forward with a childlike enthusiasm, as if she can't take her eyes off of the road in case our destination is around the next corner. I'm feeling anxious because I really want this weekend to be as ideal as possible. I understand how much she needs it. In fact, I also need it, but right now, her needs are more important than mine. Wow, hey! Was that really the only thought I had? This significant change from being focused only on the pack and myself to now having Dahlia right up there, pushing her way past those things, is something I hadn't even realized had happened. I don't understand how she did it without my knowledge, and to be honest, it scares the living daylights out of me more than words can express. As naive and arrogant as it may sound, I never imagined that I would ever consider the needs of others before my own. Naturally, my subsequent ascent to the position of alpha demonstrated this, but after assuming my title, I reasoned that this was the most important thing. The needs of my pack and I would undoubtedly come before those of everything else. But here she is, charmingly unaware of the profound impact she has had on my life. I'm so freaking scared that it even happened, and here I am. I'm terrified that someone or something might be more important to me than my pack or even to me. And what could possibly be more crazy than all of that? The fact that I don't want to alter it. Not a single one. Dahlia Finn turns off the main highway after another 40 minutes of driving, and we start to wind our way through the twilight, with enormous conifers looming over us. My curiosity is piqued when the paved road eventually turns to gravel. It is a very good thing this is not our first date, I say. Noting that neither Finn's nor my phones have service anymore, I joke, otherwise I'd be thinking right about now that you're taking me somewhere to kill me. My comment nearly made Finn smile. Fair enough, it is pretty removed. He smiles. But I don't think we've really had a first date, have we? He inquires. I nod in agreement, realizing this. Yeah, actually. I guess I never really thought about it much. I say this honestly because, really, if you already know that this person is meant for you, why even go through the dating process? He asks, do you want to? I furrow my brows in perplexity. As I watch Finn turn off the road and head straight into the trees, I ask, do I want to what? After a brief moment of panic, I realize that he has actually turned into a well-hidden driveway. As we start bumping into each other, he briefly fixes his gaze on my face and says, to have a first date. With branches from previous storms strewn here and there, this driveway appears to have been neglected for a few years. I'm not overly disappointed we haven't, but you know, it would be nice to do one of those normal couple things. I respond with a smirk. As if to confirm that this was a wise decision, Finn asks, spending a weekend away together is a normal couple thing, right? I smile at his cautious tone. I take hold of his hand. I hope he understands how much I also want this, so I say, painstakingly normal, it's a perfect idea. I believe my message has been understood because Finn's mouth lifts my knuckles to his lips and gives them a feather-light kiss before curving up into a firm smile. He stops and says, good. We're here. I eagerly glance out my window and make out the dim outline of a building in the shadows. I narrow my eyes in a desperate attempt to see the shape better. I turn to face him and ask, a cabin? Finn's eyes are already fixed on me. Been a few years since anyone in my family has been up here to use it, he says. With careful word choice, he says, but it is nothing if not private. I figured you wouldn't mind the rustic appeal. I smile as I lean across the console. I gently press my lips to his and say, private is perfect. Then I pull away and say, let's get the hell in there. Both of us proceed to grab our bags and the food-filled coolers. I follow Finn out of the car through the dark, scuttling under a willow tree's drooping branches to the back porch steps. Finn retrieves a key from his pocket and places the coolers and bags on top of them down. He opens the door just enough to reach inside and switch on the outside light above us after unlocking it. Don't mind the layers of dust on everything, I would have bothered to spruce it up a bit if I knew more than 4 hours ago this was happening. Finn smiles slightly. I nod at him to go on, saying, consider it not minded at all. I'm right behind Finn as he steps in. I detect the scent right away, the damp yet cozy scent of a log cabin. Just as Finn turns on more lights, the floorboard beneath me creaks. We are standing in a spacious, open common space with high ceilings and thick cedar beams, and despite the passing of the years, we still look proud. To our left are an antique, comfortable-looking rocking chair and love seat, with a coffee table in front of them. A book on the table has a dusty cover that makes it difficult for me to read the title. I notice that the dining table is on one side of the wood stove, which is positioned along the left wall in the center of the space. My attention is diverted by Finn's voice as he says, "My mum and dad built this place. They realized they needed a place to go together that was outside the pack's boundaries." He clarifies. "You can't see it right now, but there's a lake out front." He gestures to the room's other side, where the front door is located next to a sizable window that at the moment only lets in the dark night. "Really?" I inquire curiously. I try to remember the last time I went swimming and say, I have not been swimming in ages. I believe it was with Malia, at least 2 years ago, when we went to the ocean for the day. We body surfed and relaxed in the sun all day long. It was well worth it, even though we came home with salt on every part of our body and a pound of sand in our hair. With one of the coolers in his arms, Finn walks confidently past me, across the room, and to the right before vanishing from sight. I see him standing in a kitchen as I move forward, another light switch flicking on. Finn puts the cooler down and reaches above the refrigerator to feel for something. Let's hope these batteries aren't completely drained. I hear a switch click, and the refrigerator begins to hum softly. With relief, he exhales, "Thank God. I packed this thing full of ice packs, just in case," he says, kicking the cooler that is at his feet. "But the fridge is much preferred." I get our bags from the front door while we proceed to unpack all the food. I was pretty sure the bedrooms must be upstairs, so I placed them in front of the stairs right next to the kitchen. As Finn works to start the wood stove, I ask out loud, "Are the rooms up there or?" "Thank God it's freezing in here." He says, Yeah, they are. I can show you in a section." He keeps his eyes on his work in front of him and doesn't bother to glance over his shoulder. I look over his shoulder and notice that he is stacking kindling and wood in a manner that I have never seen him do before. Uncertain, I ask, "Isn't it best to make it like a teepee or something?" On one hand, I can count how many times I've had to start a fire by myself. They weren't very successful because Tobias would always laugh at my annoyance before taking over and pointing out my mistakes. As he keeps piling kindling on top of the rectangular structure, Finn explains, "That's what everyone thinks, and it can work, but as my dad always says, a house burns faster than a teepee." He discovers that the matches are perfectly outlined in the dust that has accumulated on top of the wood stove. He knocks one off. Finn carefully positions it in the middle of his stack of kindling, and I see that he has crumpled up some newspaper there. It catches easily, and the kindling starts to be consumed by the flame and crackles in a matter of seconds. With a hint of mischief in his brown eyes, Finn says, "Okay, that's done. 20 minutes and this place will be much warmer." He gets up and turns to face me. I can give you the grand tour now. I accept the hand he extends to me and say, please do. He shows me the 3 bedrooms and large bathroom as he leads me upstairs. Like the rest of the cabin, the bedrooms are comfortable and rustic. On top of the beds were lovely, elaborate quilts, probably made by Greta and/or Miriam. I notice some pictures hanging on the far side of the wall in the final bedroom Finn shows me, which is his parents' room. I let go of Finn's hand to approach them, and he notices my curiosity. As I get a better look, he gives a little laugh. 2 pictures are displayed in frames next to each other. The first shows a young boy with a big smile on his face, proudly holding up a big fish for the camera while standing at the edge of what must be a creek or fin. Finn joins me where I am and says, that was the first fish I ever caught without any help, happened to be a pretty big one too, as luck would have it. My sister was so annoyed with me, she went at it for hours, that day, but every one of them got away from her. As I look at little Finn, a gentle smile appears on my face. He has round cheeks, long hair, and can't be older than 8 or 9. Around his ears, it curls at the ends. Considering that they are 5 years apart in age, I remark, poor Sam, she couldn't have been very old. Finn laughs once more. She was only 4, I think. But she was so determined to catch one too. Mom had to basically drag her away from Ravenbrook when it was time to leave. He nods. But she got her way in the end. She caught one the next day, almost as big as the one I got. Which of course annoyed the hell out of me. Their sibling rivalry is both absurd and amusing, and I roll my eyes. I can only imagine how amazing they must have looked together at that age. I turn to face him and say, you guys have really been at it since day one, haven't you? Finn's eyes remain fixed on the picture, and he has a happy, longing expression. He nods and looks down into my eyes, saying, yeah, pretty much. He shrugs and turns to the second picture. But we don't know any other way to treat each other. It's our weird way of bonding, despite how brutal the jokes can get. That's my mum and dad, when they first finished building this place. When I look at the second picture, I see Corwin and Miriam on the front steps in front of the cabin, much younger. They must be in their early to mid-20s, and their faces are essentially the same as they are now, save for a few wrinkles and grey hair, so they can't be much older than Finn and me. Their arms are wrapped around one another, and Miriam is smiling broadly as she faces the camera, one arm extended in a Tata sort of manner, blatantly flaunting their cabin accomplishments. In reality, Corwin isn't even staring at the camera. Instead, he is focusing on Miriam with a grin on his face and a look of adoration. When I say, they look almost exactly the same, I chuckle. Looking at Finn, who nods and has his hands now stuffed deep in his pockets, I observe, they've aged well. Finn pauses to reflect before continuing, yeah, they haven't changed much at all. They've always managed to get through everything thrown at them like it's nothing. I've never understood how they did it all so effortlessly, they just always knew the exact right thing to do and say. I understand that Finn is probably evaluating himself against them at the moment, especially his father. I wonder if he will ever reach the point where he can accomplish the same thing. To feel certain that he made the right choices and be able to lead and manage the Dreadmore pack as effectively as his father did, being alpha. I give him a gentle shoulder bump. In an attempt to allay his concerns, I say, "Hey, you don't need to worry about that. From what I can tell, you've been doing and saying all the right things so far." He responds in a somewhat flat and dejected tone, "So far." However, he grins and has that cheeky expression in his eyes as he looks directly into mine. "Come on, there's more to see. And I think you're going to like it." Dahlia Finn puts his hand back in mine and leads me outside, navigating the darkness with ease. To know this cabin as well as he does, he must have spent a lot of time here. As we turn the corner into more darkness, we see a picnic table and barbecue at the rear of the cabin. A mounted light suddenly comes to life and illuminates the room in front of us as Finn lets go of my hand and walks to the exterior wall. In front of me, something is hidden from view by a handcrafted wooden partition. I approach Finn out of curiosity and glance around to see that the partition conceals something else completely, something covered with a blue tarp. Finn says, "This is easily one of the best amenities we have here." He appears to be a child opening a gift. He takes hold of the large tarp's edge and pulls it off with a few firm tugs. There is an outdoor shower and tub in front of us, spaced a few feet apart. Although the remainder of the cabin is visible, the wooden partition provides seclusion from anyone approaching from the rear. This includes the lake directly in front of us and the woods to our right. The moon is currently rising over the lake. It is 3/4 full and so bright that it reflects off the water like a spotlight. The light shines so brightly that we hardly need it on. Sincerely surprised to see such a setup outside, I ask, "This works?" As I approach to examine the shower and tub, I inquire, "Like hot water and everything?" With the exception of a few stray pine needles, they are immaculately clean and preserved. Finn chuckles. "Yes, it works just as well as the shower inside." He reiterates. In the cool night air, I can feel his warmth rolling off his body and coming up behind me. He runs his nose along my neck, breathing me in as his arms wrap around my waist, drawing me closer to him. I can hear the smirk in his voice as he suggests, "We could always test them out right now, just to make sure." The memory of our most recent shower together makes me shudder. It was more than pleasurable. The thought of Finn's bare skin against mine has my wolf practically howling. As Finn's laugh echoes through me, I smirk and say, "We probably should, for the good of the cabin of course. If there are repairs to be done, how else will we find out?" He kisses me under my ear, then backs off and lets go of me, saying, "Exactly, I knew you'd understand." He is removing his jacket and then his shirt underneath when I turn around. I will always enjoy looking at his bare chest, it never gets old and I doubt it ever will. He starts to undo his belt now as well, and I furrow my brows in perplexity. He smiles at me as he gets out of his jeans and I ask, "Right now? Shouldn't we change inside and get some towels first?" "No need," he says as he opens the lid of a big plastic container that I had missed. He takes out 2 rolled towels and replaces them with his clothes. "We can grab these in the morning. Not like anyone else is around here anyway." I shrug and proceed to undress as well. Well, when you put it that way, I detest knowing that summer is coming to an end because the air is biting my bare skin more than it has all summer. After Finn switches on the shower for us, the water beats down and clouds of steam emerge into the night in just 1 minute. I like how the light bounces off his toned muscles and olive skin as he enters the shower. Enjoying the hot water, he leans his head back. I hastily comb my hair and tie it up in an untidy bun atop my head. I ask him, room for one more, as I get closer to the shower's edge. He shakes his head, blotting the water from his eyes and pushing back the hairs on his forehead. I smile a little. His eyes are hungry and dark, and for a moment they seem almost glowing from the reflection of the light in them. Now that my body is in full view of him, he takes me in. I suddenly realize that I'm not even slightly anxious about him seeing me in this state. I would have been hiding myself a few weeks ago, thinking insecure thoughts like how much more attractive the women he's dated in the past must have been than me, how unprepared I am for everything related to intimacy and sex, and yet here we are. As he takes me in, I can see that Finn's eyes are free of all judgment. His excitement, desire, anticipation, and something else, something much more powerful than mere desire, are all I can see and sense. Finn grinned and moved out of the water's flow, giving me plenty of room to intervene. Always, he said. I let out a sigh as the hot water quickly runs over my body, simultaneously burning and relieving my aching muscles. My neck hurts as I tilt my head, and I moan. Shortly after, I feel Finn's hands on either side of my neck, using firm, sweeping motions to massage the muscles. I respond with a small laugh when he asks, "You're sore?" I smile as I reminisce about the past 2 weeks of hilariously hectic days at the creche and say, chasing after children all day could nearly be considered an Olympic sport. Being outnumbered 10 to 1 makes it especially hard. One kid is throwing their food on the ground, another has their hand stuck in a toy, then another starts randomly crying. I shake my head and sigh. Finn puts his arms around my waist and presses his chest against my back as he says to me, "Jesus, sounds exhausting, Dahlia." I am aware that his skin is just as hot as mine, but it feels hotter nonetheless. As soon as we come into contact with one another, a friction of a chemical kind occurs. I wonder if Finn is also aware of this. It can be, but it's also so fun. Watching them learn, play, understand the world around them a little more each day, I respond with a shrug. Makes it all worth it, I think. Finn's stubble prickles my skin as he rests his head on my shoulder. I grin when he says, "You've got to have the patience of a saint." I can't help but smile as Finn laughs and rolls his eyes. "Well, I've put up with you for this long, haven't I?" I ask. With a grin still on my face, I turn in his grasp so that we are facing one another and wait to see how Finn will respond. Finn shrugs, "I'll give you that," and his hands move from my waist to the small of my back before crossing behind me to draw my body against him. I want to curl my toes because of how rich and decadent it feels to press our wet skin together. Finn puts his mouth to mine before I can respond. I lean into him and his mouth slides over mine, smooth and cautious. I savor the hot water and the sensation of his arms embracing me, as though I were his most valuable possession at that precise moment. I groan in response as his tongue slides over mine, sending a shockwave through me. Before my hands reach his neck, I place them on either side of his face. Suddenly, there's a sound coming from close by, and I simultaneously get hungry. We both separate as we recognize where the sound came from. Finn shakes his head and says, "Shit, we haven't had dinner yet." With a hint of humor in his eyes, he looks down at me and says, "You're hungry?" I nod, but then instantly shrug. I lean in and say, "Sure, but what's a few more minutes of this going to do?" I get a few more kisses because Finn makes fun of me, but he eventually pulls away with a look of disapproval on his face. As if he is aware that we are acting inappropriately. He uses his alpha voice to sound rather authoritative as he says, "It's been hours since we left, we really should eat." When he isn't acting like a complete jerk about it, it's actually pretty cute. I take a step back and sigh. I realize how hungry I've become and say, "Well, I guess a meal wouldn't be the worst thing right now." Before we left, I had an apple and some crackers, but obviously that was insufficient. Finn turns off the water and retrieves the 2 towels he had previously hung on the hook by reaching around the edge of the partition. I smile and nestle into the soft cotton as he first wraps one around me. Finn dries himself considerably faster, putting the towel around his waist as he exits the shower with the steam still dripping off his skin. I do the same, putting my towel around my body and fastening the end to keep it in place. Together with Finn, I gather my pile of clothes, and we make our way back through the darkness while the nearby lake's crickets and frogs loudly sing. After a few minutes, both of us are standing in the kitchen, assessing our dinner options while wearing our pajamas. Finn says, almost ashamed, "I had to keep it simple, since this was so last minute." "I hope you're not above tomato soup and grilled cheese," he says, taking the butter and cheese out of the refrigerator. I stand leaning against the counter and shake my head. I try to let him know that I'm not picky about the menu by saying, "Definitely not, I just so happen to love both." He opens one of the numerous cupboards and pulls out a can of tomato soup, saying, "Okay, great. Would you rather make the soup or the sandwiches?" I smirk and say, "Either or, just put me to work, chef." Finn shakes his head and rolls his eyes, but there's a faint smile on his lips. We go about preparing our meal, Finn deciding he would look after the sandwiches, which leaves me to tend to the soup. I'm feeling the effects of the week's fatigue, but I don't mind at all. I'm leaning against the stove, slowly circling the pot with a wooden spoon in hand, doing everything I can to avoid falling asleep. At last, we take our seats at the table with our plates full of grilled cheese and steaming soup, the melted cheese nearly overflowing the edges of the bread. I quickly take the first bite after sensing that my mouth is watering. I close my eyes and groan in gratitude. A laugh echoes across the table, and I continue to wait, savoring every bite of the sandwich. I open my eyes, seeing an amused expression painted on Finn's features. With that constant smirk tugging at his lips, he tilts his head ever so slightly and asks, "Satisfying enough for you?" How is this so good?" I ask him, truly in awe. I see a genuine smile on his face as I say, "I've had my fair share of grilled cheeses in my 21 years, and I think this takes the cake. Like, by a long shot." I admire the scene as I catch a glimpse of the young boy holding his fish with pride in the upstairs photo. Suddenly, I remember what Miriam said to me as we strolled through the forest following Frank's funeral preparations, but I see the way he looks at you now, and I feel like he's back, my silly, stubborn, loving son. I get a rush of insight because I believe I'm beginning to see Miriam's point of view for the first time. Before the weight and responsibilities of being alpha pushed those aspects of him down, almost out of view, Finn was the boy in the picture, the real Finn, in her eyes. Finn pulls me out of my inner monologue by saying, "I can't go telling you all my secrets." He dips the edge of his sandwich into the soup, soaking the bread, saying, "All a man has are his secrets." I shake my head and roll my eyes. I dip my own sandwich into my bowl, following Finn's example. "Of course you find some way of dodging the question. You do know I'll find out one day, right?" "I mean," I say as I take a bite, the soup's delectable addition enhancing the flavor. When I'm done, I ask myself, how could I eat this and not find out how to make it? Finn looks rather unconcerned as he shrugs. He looks down into his bowl and smirks deeply to himself, saying, "Just gives you one more reason to put up with me, maybe one day, I'll tell you." At least I do, and we finish our meal fast. I get up from the table, gather my dishes and carry them to the wash basin while Finn is still finishing his last few bites. By the time I make my way back, Finn is also putting down his spoon and stretching while reclining in his chair. As his shirt pulls up, I remove his plates, allowing my gaze to rest on the bare skin that emerges. I glance back up at Finn's face, and he catches me, his brown eyes looking especially sly. I turn back on my heel and remain silent so as not to give him the satisfaction. His dishes go in the wash basin with mine, and I grab the knob to turn on the water. Finn quickly puts his hand over mine and holds it there. His breath is tickling my hair as he says, "Dishes can wait for the morning, baby." His body radiates warmth against my back, which I can feel. Leaning back and into him is something I instinctively do. I laugh as I say, "Maybe you have a point." I can feel my fatigue starting to twitch its head. I turn my head to look up at Finn as he says, "You go sit, I'm going to fix us some tea." My eyebrows go up. I smile and ask, "Really? I like the way that sounds." Finn's mouth touches my forehead. He confirms, taking my hand away from where it was gripping the knob, "Really?" His voice is still tainted with that authoritativeness that both annoys and excites me as he repeats, "Go sit." My wolf wants to please her alpha, so she doesn't mind him telling me what to do. She doesn't usually retaliate against his commands. Not tonight, anyway. This makes me shake my head inwardly as I realize once more that Finn has some sort of magic, connection, tether, or whatever you want to call it, that keeps the most basic aspect of me in his grasp. I can feel my feet dragging me over to the love seat by the fireplace. As the down cushions on the love seat perfectly fit my body, I tease, "Fine, fine, but don't go thinking this means you get to call all the shots while we're here, Alpha Finn." I hear Finn reply from the kitchen, "I wouldn't dream of it, Dahlia." I simply smile and giggle. I realize I can't absorb all the heat the fire provides us with right now, so I ask, "Could I move this closer to the fire?" As I hear mugs clinking and different drawers opening, Finn says, "Do whatever you want." I get up and pull the love seat over so that it faces the fire. I feel a huge difference already, so I settle back down and sigh happily. I reach behind me to better position the pillow at my back and raise my legs, stretching them out on the leftover space of the love seat. Through the wood stove's small window, I watch the fire pop and crackle. As if doing a complicated tango, the different shades of orange and red entwine themselves around one another as the flames lick their way up the log's edges, reaching as high as they can. As I scoot down farther, I hear Finn tinkering in the kitchen while my head rests against the pillow behind me. My eyelids feel heavy, really heavy. I lean back on the cushions and concentrate on the warmth radiating from my body and the soothing sound of Finn's footsteps on the floor. Finn nearing the end of making our tea, I ask. I always forget, is it 1 or 2 sugars, Dahlia? I pause to hear back from her. Dahlia? I inquire once more, wondering for a moment if she got up and started looking around the cabin. Once more, I receive no response to my question, which makes me feel anxious. I put the spoon and sugar bowl down and walked 3 short distances to the love seat without hearing any of the doors or even her getting up from it. I see her lying there, eyes closed, breathing deeply while she sleeps, and I smile quietly to myself. Despite Dahlia's best efforts to hide it, her fatigue has been evident throughout the night. I'm not totally shocked to discover her in this state. Nevertheless, the guilt she feels for working so hard for the pack still resides inside of me. She shouldn't have to be this exhausted all the time. It's just not sustainable, or fair, that she be burning herself out to this point. I place my hands on the edge of the love seat and kneel next to her, being silent. My gaze darts over her face, focusing on the straight and delicate nose, the sharp slope of her jaw, and the dreadmores illuminated by the fire. Her heartbeat and steady breathing are audible to me. Her light brown curls have taken on an interesting shade of bronze due to the fire, and I forget myself as I reach out to straighten a strand that has fallen across her cheek. It could be a few minutes or an hour, but I have no idea how long I kneel there. As I process this woman's existence for what feels like the 1000th time, time has no place here. I still find it difficult to believe, though, that this is all real and happening and that I didn't possibly push myself into a delusional state out of loneliness and desire. Eventually, I see that the fire has diminished to a mere heap of flaming embers. I get up, my joints hurting from all the time in the crouch, but I ignore it as I grab a couple more logs. I put them in the wood stove with the assurance that they will catch fire and burn all night. My wolf himself is telling me to go see Dahlia, and I turn back to her, feeling that unfathomable pull. I put my arms around her as gently as I can, holding her close to me and raising her up. As I start up the stairs, she stirs, and I instinctively pull her in an attempt to prevent her from waking. I gently let go of her and lay her on my bed's mattress. I proceed to gather the blanket and drape it over her. She groans softly as she shifts. Finn, she asks in a rough, groggy voice, but I can sense the urgency and worry that I'm too far away. My wolf is so sensitive to her now that he can sense it too. I whisper back to her, "SHH," and wrap the remaining blanket around her. I run my fingers down the curve of her cheek and observe how my touch clearly calms her. "I'm here, go back to sleep, baby." I'm incredibly proud that I can offer her this kind of consolation. To understand how much she depends on me and how much I depend on her. Dahlia remains motionless, her breathing returning to its usual slow, deep rhythm. I let my eyes pass over her before scowling a little as I notice how thin this comforter's material is. I quickly locate the additional blankets I brought and cover her with a heavier one. Without wasting any time, I crawl into bed with her, feeling the cold blankets sting my skin. I find Dahlia's waist curve and reach for her, drawing myself into her. With her back against my chest and my arm safely encircling her, every curve of her body precisely matches the shape of mine. I plant a kiss on her hair and hold it there for a second while I experience a wave of calm and panic. Calm, because Dahlia is now my haven, she is everything I could ever want when everything else is crumbling around me. However, this calm, this tranquility is followed by a chilly, debilitating feeling of anxiety and fear. For I realize now, maybe more clearly and definitely than ever before, how deeply broken I would be if she were ever taken away from me. My mind flashes through images of teeth, blood, and lightning bolts smashed into wolves' coats as they attempt to rip through us. I feel my grip tighten on her, but I quickly realize it's too tight and that I might be causing her harm. I instantly make myself relax, inhale deeply, and pay attention to her heart's steady rhythm. The idea of our adversaries, the strikers, harming Dahlia in the future, taking her away from me as a ransom tactic, possibly even murdering her as retribution for my history of relentless conquest, or perhaps just out of pure resentment, makes my stomach turn, and I clench my jaw to stop the feeling. No. That is not going to occur. I will never allow it to occur. I am aware of what it would do to me and that I would never recover. I never want to know that kind of loss. I would sooner die than live in a world without her. I let out a sigh and remind myself that none of the scenarios I've imagined are coming to pass. That Dahlia's presence is the sole truth and reality. She is here with me, far from danger, safe, and protected. She will never experience the emotions of abandonment and pack loss again. I realize right now that nothing and no one in the world can ever fully replace my unwavering devotion to her. It's her. Only she will ever do it. How else could it be anyone? It's really easy, and I believe I've known it for a while, but I've never been able to admit it. Since acknowledging it would entail accepting it as true, I believe that a significant portion of me, whether I like it or not, is extremely dubious about the entire concept of love. I'm still doubtful about a lot of things, but not this one. It has nothing to do with Dahlia and my feelings for her. How I know, down to the core of my being, that this is what love is. Love feels like this. Finn, the sound of humming drifts up the stairs from the kitchen below, and I wake up to it. Now feeling nothing but the sheet, I reach out instinctively to where Dahlia was lying next to me. My nose twitches as the smell of bacon too wafts up to greet me. I don't act right away. Rather, I remain motionless, my eyes shut, and listen to Dahlia skulking around the lower level. I can hear the cracking of an egg, the soft scraping of the spatula, and the sizzle of bacon in the pan. Dahlia keeps humming softly and melodiously as she goes about, opening drawers, the refrigerator, etc. A grin tugs at my lips as I wonder what kind of mistake Dahlia just made. She's not the best at preventing the shell from falling in when she cracks it open, so she had to be with the eggs. I reluctantly get out of bed, put on my shirt, and head downstairs to the kitchen. When I first see Dahlia, her hair is piled on top of her head, with a few stray curls that are loose and bouncing off the scrunchie. Her back is to me while she handles the cooker while still wearing her pajamas. As I walk across the floor towards her, I can hear the smile in her voice. Well, good morning, sleepyhead. I put my head on her shoulder and wrap my arms around her waist, gazing down at the eggs and bacon that are cooking. I caress her neck, inhaling her scent and savoring her smooth skin. I say, wishing we could have spent more time in bed together, you got up without me. A laugh passes through her as I place a kiss below her ear. I'm sorry, but I thought it only fair I make breakfast after falling asleep on you last night. She replies, shrugging slightly. Sorry about that, by the way. With the spatula resting against the pan's edge, she twists in my grasp. Although her eyes still appear somewhat drowsy, they are as gentle and blue as ever as they look over my face. I can't resist leaning into her as her hand comes up to rest against my cheek. I shake my head, feeling Dahlia's thumb gently move over my skin, and say, no need to apologize. A smirk appears on her lips as she says, I will make up for it, don't worry. Her eyes are now light-hearted. She picks up her spatula and turns around again. This breakfast will be delicious, I hope, anyway. I chuckle, remembering her cursing earlier while I was still waking up. Unable to control my tongue, I ask her, be honest, should I expect a little fragment of eggshell in one of these? I hear Dahlia's heart beat a little faster, but my ears pick it up, and before she can even answer, I'm grinning. No, she falters, attempting to contain the squeaking laugh I know is on the verge of erupting. She's laughing in my grasp, and she can't help it. Okay, fine. There was one tiny bit, just one. And I got it out, so really, no harm done. I laugh, loving how familiar and predictable she is to me now. I didn't think I'd be doing that in my lifetime, knowing all the little tidbits, the parts of a person that are so tiny in the overall scheme of things, but so essential to being able to see the big picture. To be clear, I never imagined that I would fall in love, but here we are now. I can't resist teasing her further, savoring the moment. Do you know the Heimlich? Just in case. Oh stop, she exclaims as she quickly turns to face me while holding the spatula. She warns me by holding out her spatula, putting distance between us, saying, I assure you it'll be me suffocating you rather than that piece of eggshell if you keep this up. Her smile makes up for the irritation I can see in her eyes. Leaning down towards her, I use one finger to push her spatula to the side and tip it out of my face. As Dahlia tries to get closer herself, I hover over her mouth and can't resist bending slightly away. I feel the air between us crackle with real electricity as I ghost kiss her, asking, is that a threat, baby? I'd be lying if I said I don't like Dahlia being stuck between me and the stove, so helplessly. Dahlia says as she leans back into me and draws me in, kissing me once more. I reach for her waist, then turn to grab her. These pajama shorts don't seem to leave much room for creativity, and I can already feel mine racing. I'm all too happy to comply when Dahlia puts her arms around my neck in an attempt to get as much of me as she can. However, I take a step back when the smell of charred meat makes my nose wrinkle. Her lips are still pressed eagerly to mine as I say, the bacon is burning, Dahlia. She screams, shit, with her teeth clenched. Her mouth is gone in an instant, and she quickly turns back to the pan to tend to it. She laughs and stutters, pushing me away with her free hand. Why you need to get out of here, you're distracting the chef. Satisfied that I can agitate her as much as she agitates me, I smirk and move away. Only fair, it would seem. I say, I'll get the coffee going, and when Dahlia takes a breath to speak, I speak before her. I can hear the smile in her voice as I follow up, and tea for you, don't worry. She responds in a sing-song voice, thank you. I glance over my shoulder and see that she is actually grinning down into the hob, as if her thoughts are elsewhere at the moment. But since she is obviously happy with the world she is in, I let her remain there. We proceed to complete the breakfast preparations. I take care of preparing a cup of tea and coffee for us and slicing the oranges and bananas I brought. Dahlia consumes all of the hot food, which includes hash browns, bacon, and fried eggs. We take a seat together and start eating right away. A bright summer day is waiting for us outside as the sun shines through the front windows. I keep thinking about what we should do and where we could go, but because we decided to come here this weekend on the spur of the moment, I hadn't had time to plan out a specific schedule for us. My thoughts are interrupted by Dahlia's voice as she finishes her tea, her plate now empty. So, she says. With her eyes darting up to meet mine, she asks me, what is on the docket today, Mr. Graves, with excitement and curiosity. I sigh and try to think of the most valuable things to do. Without a doubt, we ought to enjoy the sunshine and pleasant weather. Not doing so would be a waste. The mention of the word waterfall makes Dahlia's eyes light up, so I say, amused, well, there's a few things, but I think the best option for us today would be to hike up to Mount Collins. It's got a great view, and there's a freshwater waterfall nearby. She asks, really, and I simply nod while finishing my last bite of hash browns. She pushes her chair back and picks up both of our plates, saying, yes. I like it, let's go. Dahlia, after breakfast, we clean up quickly. We're both standing on the front porch just 20 minutes later. Not knowing how long this trip will last and not wanting to be stranded in this August heat without supplies, I ask, should we bring some snacks? Water. Finn gives a headshake. He grins as he removes his shirt and throws it on the settee that is positioned to the left of the front doors. Now, we'll be passing by tons of creeks and streams, and I figure maybe we can just hunt down our lunch along the way. I ask again, hunt, and then I smile. I ask him, this isn't a walk for most two-legged folk, is it? And he gives me a wolf-like smile. Finn grins as he takes off his jeans and says, no way, it would take human legs at least 6 hours to get there, and there's more than a few precarious spots along the way far too rugged. But it'll be a piece of cake for us. I smile and shake my head, pulling my shirt over my head as well. Before I shimmy out of my denim shorts, I say, fair enough. We even got changed, which was kind of pointless, but whatever. I look back at Finn and he's naked and smiling foolishly. I see him leap over the stairs, take off running from the end of the porch, and then transform into a wolf in midair. 10 feet away, a black hulking mass, he lands and shakes his entire body to get used to his new form. His large head turns to face me, his brown eyes, which contrast sharply with the color of his coat, now much more golden yellow. I roll my eyes and say, show off. However, a smile appears on my lips as I also back off a few steps and push myself up against the front door. I take off at a run, jumping off the end of the porch and sailing through the air just like he had. I awaken the tingle of heat that always lurks just beneath my skin's surface, waiting and dormant. With full force, it travels down my spine and towards my extremities. Red hot and amazing, it blazes its way through my body. I land next to Finn with a slight thud, my paws digging into the ground as I feel the dirt move and shift beneath me. He looks at me approvingly, obviously impressed by my ability to change so quickly. Calling forth that aspect of yourself, your wolf, requires practice. Although it becomes easier with time, some people may still find it difficult. It's particularly challenging to do it while running, jumping, falling, or performing any other fast motion. Take the lead, I say, rubbing my shoulder against Finn's big one. Make an effort to stay up. Finn answers, and before I can say anything more, he rockets ahead of me, heading north towards the woods. Guys, I shake my big head. I then started to follow him. Dahlia, we chase and run through the trees for hours on end. Finn and I tear up the mountainside, a blur of black and white, not straining to keep up our pace. Both of us haven't had the opportunity to shift and run around freely in such a long time, with nothing to do but keep our noses to the ground and take in every taste, smell, and sound. Along the way, we make a few stops and drink from the freshwater creeks Finn mentioned. Among them was the same creek in his parents' room where he caught his fish for the picture. There, a mother bear and her cub were observing her as she caught a fish for them both. Even though the young cub made every effort to imitate his mother's movements, he was still too awkward to make his own catch. Rather, he spent several minutes just splashing around before exhausting himself and passing out on Ravenbrook's grassy bank. When the mother bear smelled us, she paused to raise her nose to the wind, and we watched. Not that we were trying to hide anyway, but she saw us easily. Her large gaze settled on the two of us, assessing our size and the danger we posed. We could kill her if we truly wanted to, but the cub is too young to live alone, and this moment is just too sweet. Yes, it is nature's way, but my human heart cannot handle it. Sure, I could defend it if we were starving and couldn't find any other prey, but not today, when we have plenty of deer and rabbits to choose from. Before choosing to try her luck somewhere else along Ravenbrook Bank, the mother bear gave a low growl of warning and turned to see her cub was still well within her reach. Have you ever gone grizzly hunting? Curious, I asked Finn. He nodded his big head and let out a loud laugh. They're not precisely the ideal target type, only a few times. Even with my dad and a few other people present, it was difficult. But it's delicious as hell. After that, we proceeded swiftly, navigating the few dangerous areas Finn had mentioned, a cliff with just a foot of space that we could maneuver easily, our tall, slender bodies providing us with the advantage to move to the other side in comfort. It was slippery and risky for most other people and animals, but our rough paw pads and acute sense of balance made it much easier. We used a fallen tree to cross over rushing rapids. We are now at last approaching the precipice. The ascent is steep, and as we continue up the mountain, the loose rock and gravel shift and occasionally clatter. The conditions up here are much less conducive to the coniferous giants found below, and the trees are becoming scarcer and fewer in number. However, because they are low to the ground and protected from the wind, shrubs and bushes flourish here. Finn climbs to the top first, looking back down at me to make sure I'm still not far behind. Then, as a gust of wind blows up towards us, ruffling my fur, his golden yellow eyes move away, taking in the scenery. I pull myself up alongside him where he is now, taking the last and final step. I looked out, absorbing it. Yes, I say, taking it in through our mind link. This was a wise decision. The vast forest that lies in front of us now is green on almost every piece of land, including the hills and valleys. It is incredibly large and seems to go on forever as the coniferous green continues to spread and vanishes over the next ridge. The cabin is too hidden by the trees to be seen, but the lake where it is located is visible, sparkling blue on this idyllic summer afternoon. We can see the numerous streams and the rushing fin we crossed, and I can now mentally retrace our steps to see the precise path we took to arrive here. The wind that blows up the mountainside has a sweet scent and even tastes earthy and flowery. The essence that floats on the back of the wind that sighs its way through the branches and up the mountainside seems to be the culmination of the scents of every creature, tree, and flower below us. Was it worthwhile, then? Finn's large eyes gaze down into mine as he turns to face me. I lick the side of his muzzle lovingly while grinning at him like a wolf. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.